Alrighty. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fractured Thinking. Today on the docket, I'm talking about competitive spirit, how it relates to jiu-jitsu competitions and art and work. So stay tuned. It's also going to be an exercise in trying not to say the word a million times. And we're trying out a new game. I did have a decent recording on this morning. I can't lie, but I didn't record any of the mic audio because it's been over a year since I've done this. And I found that I really enjoyed being on the mic again. No, three people maybe are gonna watch this, right, or listen to this, but I'm okay with that. I don't mind. I get a lot of, I think, benefit out of just talking about my own ideas. One of the things that the conclusions that I had come to in the half hour or so recording I attempted this morning was that, because I've been doing these videos for so long, I started recording these just gaming videos in middle school, you start to learn how to communicate in words. And I was interested, or that came up because one of the, I guess, problems, not the struggles with trying to get better at something like drawing, which I think has become more potent for me as I'm attempting to write a book. Now, I'm not actually writing a book. I just wanted to write a little bit every morning for the month of November. And even though I've got a good handle on English, I can type fast, I've got all these objective skills, writing is still difficult because I'm not used to conveying these stories in my head that have such a strong feeling. And it's kind of like, well, how does this come out? I'm just trying to get to the end of the story, and then I'll come back and, flesh it out. Continue working on it a little bit. And drawing is the same thing. Nonetheless, I'll probably come back to this idea because I've had this same struggle for, I guess, technically for my entire life. It's been very prevalent recently, and the last couple of months especially. Now, I had a real low point a couple weeks ago. Real low point. And I was preparing for a jiu-jitsu competition. And I decided to do more jiu-jitsu competition. The competition went so badly that I was like, I'm going to sign up for more. And I had two more. I had one this past weekend, a couple days ago. It didn't go well. Well, it went better. A few things happened. And I suppose before I get to that, I should get to what happened in the first competition. So the first competition was in October, and it was like the main one I was preparing for. And I did another competition a little bit before that, and I wasn't fully preparing for it. And I lost my rounds in one bracket quickly and easily. Submissions, and I did win one of them. And then I did in the other bracket, I was able to win, but it just didn't, something was off. I'm not certain entirely, but I kind of also robbed myself of the win in a way. But it was all downhill from there, because the next competition, something died, I should say, when I stepped onto that mat in the first match. And the first match ended 0-0 by decision, and I lost because I didn't do anything. And then my second match was, I think I was up by 4 points or something, and then I just tapped on a submission that I did not need to tap on. It was not a threat, but I just did. And then we went to the next bracket, and I had lost all my fight. And I lost by 2 because I got taken down, and I just held my defense. Anyway, I don't want to get into the specifics, but this competition this past weekend, my first match I won. My second match went 3 minutes into overtime. And it was 0-0, and the ref was like, don't make me do this by decision. And I tried to do a sweep, and I failed, and I got taken down. And then my next 3 matches, including my second bracket, I lost all of them, 0-0 by decision. And that is so annoying because I don't particularly care about winning or losing, right? There's no money on the line. If there was, I don't think it would change anything. There are no stakes. And, you know, when I was unemployed and I'm looking for a job, there are stakes. I would like to keep doing a lot of the things I enjoy doing. And a job is just a part of the social contract I have to fulfill, a game I have to play. And even recently, work has been very, I think, previous things led me to wonder if I'm in the right career, and then I lost faith in career path, and I was just very burned out in work as a software engineer. And I'm trying to, or I guess I'm really scattering a lot of ideas here. But pretty much this failure this past weekend was not that I lost the matches that I lost. It was because I didn't feel like I put in much effort. I hope that I gave my opponents good matches. I felt like I wasn't just, necessarily just giving up, but I stopped fighting. And I think there's a really explicit difference there. And for one reason or another, I was left with the idea of just, how do I just fix, just get over it? I was at jiu-jitsu last night, and I was just talking with the coach. And I just kind of had this moment where I was like, I'm just so done. The last couple months have felt like soul searching in a way, but it's just felt like every time I talk about not being able to work on a project, not being able to do these matches, not being able to finish some art homework for classes I'm taking, I'm just like, stop trying to find meaning in everything. Stop overthinking it. And it's like I'm hitting this tipping point. Like I'm almost at this tipping point. And I've discovered a lot of things about myself, and I think of how I see the world. And so the last couple months have not necessarily been like useless, but I just felt that strong-arming and using self-discipline to get through things and do things just wasn't working. There was just a very pervasive nihilism. And I found something that I'm not going to go into, but it was a kind of a framework that helped. And jiu-jitsu is just one of those areas where I'm able to apply it. Now, if you've listened to any of these types of videos before, you might know game development and game design is something I've always wanted to do, as is art, just drawing, painting, and animation to a degree. And I think jiu-jitsu falls in the same bucket that those two things are in. It's not something I've always wanted to do. Martial arts is something that has always been important to me, but this competition thing is a surprise. I'm surprised I'm doing as many as I am, but there's something there that I need to find. And so I guess the thought and the metaphor that came out when I was attempting to record this morning and butchered it, I've dragged it into Premiere and I was like, oh, dude, come on. Okay, I'm really bad at this game, but it's perfect for fractured thinking or fractured thoughts, whatever. Anyway, the metaphor I guess I came up with was that a competitive spirit, let's say, being able to foster a competitive spirit is something that will help me in my matches and will help me not necessarily win, but help me put my best foot forward. I don't want any more matches in my life to go to decision. I would rather do a Hail Mary and lose it, or, again, even better, set something up and properly, try a good effort. I might still fail, obviously, but that's okay. I would much rather, fair metaphor that might be more relatable is like I would rather hand in a full essay that I've edited 2 or 3 times from a rough draft and get a C+ on it than hand in a procrastinated essay that I spent a fifth of the time on and didn't put any effort in and got a C+. Because then I can learn from it, If I submit 2 paintings out of 5 for homework for the week, it doesn't feel good because I haven't put my best foot forward. The feedback is still helpful that I get, especially at my level, but I'm not getting the practice and the mileage in. And especially for art, that's so important. And so when we look at just, competing and a competitive spirit, you can't foster a competitive spirit in art. I'm sure you can. You can probably motivate yourself that way. But in art, I'm not trying to compete against anyone. I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. When I was doing Spartan races, I don't really care about them anymore. They were a good challenge and I trained hard for them, and that was the reward in it. Now I'll run them with friends, but I just don't have any motivation to do them in and of itself. But the competitions, for some reason, I keep wanting to do them. And I want to figure this out. It's like this problem has been thrown into my face. And so the competitive spirit that I want to foster, or need to foster, I should say, maybe it's not actually being competitive, but just something else. But right now I think I need to create some way to be competitive. Oh, shucks. Threaded the needle right into the wall. I think that is a branch off of a tree, off of the trunk of a tree. And when I find my competitive spirit, which is something so... The path on how to find that is so... I don't know if it's clear, doing competitions, or if it's just like the only option is to do competitions. But ideally, to get to this branch, I have to grow the whole tree, right? And I think if I can grow that whole tree, if I can find my competitive spirit, if I can find what it branches off of, everything else will branch off of that same thing. And so in my difficulty to motivate myself doing art, I only just recently feel like my discipline is able to return. And that's a hard thing to explain because on one hand, it's like, oh, I'm being lazy and just procrastinating. On the other hand, I might just be like, well, it's just as easy as just doing it. But it's November. There's 4.5 months of like recent pain behind just do it. So it's not just sit down and do it, right? For me, at least. At the end of the day, it's always that, but there is something to get you to say, all right, you know what? It's time. I'm gonna buckle up and get into it. And I suppose I don't know how to create a competitive spirit. I've never been competitive. Maybe once a long time ago, but I remember in high school I did cross-country skiing and I had this one race and I just like halfway through I just like took a chill, took my gloves off. My coach was like, what happened? I was like, we had a small conversation about it and he wasn't too helpful. But it was just like, I don't care. These races, anyway, it's not that important. But I was playing Overwatch with friends a while ago and like someone screamed at me and I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with this game. I just want to goof around and Lucio ball. Like I just want to Lucio on the walls. That's all I wanted to do. And I think it's almost as if my competitiveness has been frozen in this block of ice. Maybe I should treat this like actual skiing and slaloming left and right. And it's like it's somewhere out there and I can see it through the ice, but I haven't been able to melt the ice away. But the more competitions I do, the closer I get to finding my flame, so to speak. And I know that, I don't know if I've actually created one of these on hunger before, but I had a revelation about hunger, and I'm not a passionate person. Although it depends on the word passion. I think I have a clear image of who I want to be and the kind of person, the qualities I want to possess. People could see that as passion. But I don't feel like I have a particular drive, and I definitely don't seem to have a dream. But I have a hunger that manifests as a kind of tenacious attitude. Sometimes. The last 6 months, that tenacity has been completely absent. Although I am, I'm fighting the reason it's not there, so who knows. Nonetheless, excuse me for the sniffles. It's like I forget how to breathe when I talk. Anyway. This is getting away from me a little bit, but the point is I want to use these competitions to dig in to why that competitive spirit is so necessary. Why does the feeling of winning and losing feel the exact same? can I dig into this somehow? I mean, over time, you know, I remember in high school getting a 68 on a history test versus a 97. I didn't feel any difference. I just like didn't study for the tests, and I got 60s and 70s. Made up the rest of the grade with other parts of whatever made up the grade. I think I got like a B or a B plus in that class. It was fine, but it's just like all this goes back to then. Oh my God, rabbit. That was cool. I feel like I saw something very special right there. Anyway, but for some reason, with the jiu-jitsu, and I don't try, and something is just like, I gotta do it again. I have to try again. And it's like I'm holding on to this thing. It's like this confidence in my skill, but this testing of my mind. And something is limiting me. That I know. You know, there's some limiting factor. And it's like, if I lose in some sense, that's okay. I don't care if I lose. I just need to put my best foot forward. And if I win, I need to make sure that I applaud the win. Because I think that's what I did when I did win in that first competition. I just kind of robbed myself of it. I was like, oh, this person, came up a weight class because there weren't enough people and yada yada. And that's not fair to the opponent either. I mean, my opponents, I'm not saying I'm good at this. I'm just saying, like, my opponents were also good. I just don't feel like, I don't know. There's just something. And I need to unlock the competitive spirit. I don't really want to unlock aggression. Maybe I need to unlock aggression, but I think, again, coming back to that point, it's just like, I think that if I can find this branch of a competitive spirit, I can find the true incentive that will get me to make a game. I want to do this thing next year, one game every month, small prototype, which is just pure iteration. And I don't know if I can do that. Objectively, I can. Objectively, I have faith that my jiu-jitsu, we won't say can win, do a barrel roll, but we'll say can perform better than it has in competitions. I know that, and other people have validated that. And I know that I have the time and the resources to do this game project a month. They will not be good. They will be prototypes. They all have different focuses. I've got the ideas mapped out. But to get myself to sit down and start and do it, to stay away from distraction, to ensure that, you know, if I were to go in and do this, if I started this next month, it's just about the end of November right now, I don't think I would succeed if I were to do one game in December. But let's just say I did and I failed. Well, that's it. That failing would just be the same thing. It's not a new phenomenon. Failing to do, right? There is no, the game is good, the game is bad. It must succeed and make money. If it doesn't make money, it fails. There's none of that metric. It's just if I do. And that's subjective, I know, but I trust my subjectivity in terms of doing. However, what I must teach myself is to applaud and award the win and to know what works when it does. And so if I can make a game that first month, I need to ensure that that is a win. And I treat it as such. I don't know how to do that either. You know, if I win a round, this past weekend, again, this is not about my opponent. He was good. It was a good match, I hope. I just didn't put my best foot forward. And so, when I did win, I didn't give it to myself. The competitive spirit, I think, is a double-sided coin. It's two sides of the same coin where you got to make sure that you're critical on the losses, but you're also great about the wins. And I think there was a time in my life that has subliminally stuck around, such that I don't give myself the wins, and I just harped on myself for the losses so much that now I'm just like, whatever. And so now they've both neutralized the same thing. And I need to ensure that not only is winning better than losing, but how do I put this? I think winning was 0 and losing was negative 100, right? So making a game this 1 month, in my current mentality / the mentality I'm trying to work out of, doing something, we'll just say, keep it general. Making a painting, doing something is 0 points. It doesn't change the needle, and not doing it is negative 100 points. When, it used to be negative 800 points. What I need to make sure that I do is completing a painting is 100 points, if not 500 points. I don't think that, buy this thing that you always wanted is a good incentive for me. I don't want those external motives. But there is a sense of like, dude, just do it. And yet I just want to make sure that I discipline myself the right way this time. And I don't know how much sense that really makes. But I strong-armed myself so much, and I think what just happened these past couple months was there was just no point to strong-arming myself. That sucks. This just, the external deadlines are just gone. The external motives have disappeared. And, maybe that's something that jiu-jitsu has that the others don't. The others being art and game development. I've reframed the entire way that I work, and that's been helping. So the tasks are based on when I start and what I start doing, not what I complete. That way, tasks don't continue to multiply or don't stay there forever. But nonetheless, if I can develop that competitive spirit, if I can find a way to that's the problem. I'm sitting here thinking about finding a way. And it's not technically false. It's just like, no, dude. Just find, just get over it. I don't like that advice generally. But I've just hit a point with myself where I'm like, just whatever you're looking for is not just going to show up. I know that by experience. The result I'm looking for lies on the other side of doing the thing, Pressfield's muse. And that, that kind of makes me, so Stephen Pressfield, War of Art, he talks about this notion of the muse and this notion of the resistance. And resistance, to oversimplify, might be procrastination, right? There's, on one hand, like when I did the competition, there's the fight or flight response made me so stressed. And I felt so blech in my stomach. And I didn't want to do it, but I knew I wanted to do it. And I think procrastination is that on a lower level. You start to panic when the deadline looms and all of a sudden your fight or flight response chooses fight. But on day 1 of the assigned homework, you usually choose flight. And for competitions, I'm able to choose fight. And sometimes for art, I'm able to choose fight. And I want to keep choosing fight. No matter, but what's great is the outcome doesn't matter. My survival here is not on the line. So it's like, hey, body, tune in, brother. And I guess one perspective that I kind of like to look at this at is that I am trying to achieve some sort of larger intent or larger purpose. That is to say, I'll wrap this up in a minute, but that's to say, the harder I push, the more the resistance will push back. Equal and opposite forces is something. I truly believe that applies on a cognitive level. Is that a drone? I've seen that before. I just Oh, rabbit! Oh shit! Tree! Oh! Where is it? Oh! Ah! What was I saying? I wanted to play a different game for this, like Horizon Zero Dawn or even Tears of the Kingdom with my garbage capture card, but it's just there's just too much happening. I get too derailed by the games. Anyway, I think I'm at a good point, is what I'm trying to say, and I think that making these videos again, sure, they're easy to edit and whatever, but I haven't recorded them in a year because there was never a reason to. Never an incentive to. And yet, for some reason, in the last 48 hours alone, 2 days ago, I was like, oh, what if I start recording Fractured Thinking again? And then all of a sudden, the thought just wedged itself in my head, and I was like, all right, I'm doing it, I guess. And that's starting to come back for more things. So I think whatever that trunk of that tree is that I'm fostering, I'm doing something right. Because it's also happening for jiu-jitsu in some ways. I'm skiing backwards, okay? I don't know why I go 4 or 5 times a week. I don't know what has driven me. Once that first competition was over, I thought I would just return to my 2 to maybe 3 times a week, but no. Granted, this week I'm going less, but that's largely because I think my body needs to relax and also to make room or make time for the art classes. But next week it'll be back to it, I hope. And it's just interesting. I guess to feel man, maybe I should make Cowdino videos again. Because it's no longer I should. But, like, I should. You know what I mean? I don't know how to maybe put that objectively, but, like, okay, I need, I quit this job so I can make YouTube videos again, so I need to make YouTube videos now that I can. Or I need to work on this project now that I can do it again. But I think maybe that's the problem when I got so burnt out, was just that I just lost even the will to do the things I enjoyed doing. And by enjoy, I mean brought value to my life. Not objectively or externally, but through the process of creation, I find things valuable. For something to be in your life, it doesn't need to provide objective value. If the video game is fun and you love watching a TV show, that's value. That's all. Whoa. The physics in this game is a little cuckoo. Nonetheless, that was kind of sick. I'll try this with points at some point. At some point. Anyway. I like trying to communicate my ideas. I find that these videos help me. And there's still, a desire deep down that someone will send in a question. People will send in questions, and other people will find value in these videos. Anyway, I don't know. That's you. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. I got the Proton email down there if you want to send in a question. It's interesting how the incentive for these videos changed to talking from about random stuff to maybe deeper topics to just like Mark needs to think and speak. And the limitations provided by posting it publicly on the internet is useful. But yeah, this will be my last little slope here. For some reason, the competitive spirit angle of this problem is the most tangible. And maybe that'll develop into my creative spirit. The urge to tell stories through games. I just like the images in my head the reason I still want to get good at art is because I want to get these images out of my head. I need to. And writing has shown me how nice that can be, even though it's difficult. And, this draft is garbage, but I'm like actually getting the ideas out. And as I write, I think of, hey, I should do this to build this element of the world. And it prods and pokes me to think, what really is this? Where does this thing play a role? in art, you try to draw something from your mind that you think you feel or you see so clearly, and then you're like, oh man, this is not going well, because you only know the concept, the idea, right? And the game is the same thing. Creating anything is the same thing. Which is part of why I just get so annoyed at AI. If you just need a bowl, all right, have a 3D printer make you a bowl. But if you want to do pottery, make the bowl, right? I guess I'm removed from the result somehow. The win, the loss of the match, the final painting, and what people might think about it. But what people might think about my own performance on the mat or my own ability to draw, and how on the mat I can face this weird apathy that is pervasive, and drawing and painting can get these images out of my head that make me hopefully feel like I do when I see concept art for a TV show or a movie that I've loved. I did not know I could lose my gear in the first place, and I just lost it all. Cool. And in games, as I express the ideas, what is it to give someone agency to move around in them, to explore the stories and the things that you yourself want to create? And just finding the competitive spirit in jiu-jitsu is, I think, the way I will find the answer to all of that. But I'm still tackling them all at the same time. And speaking of, I do need to get to some painting homework. Whoa! Hold up, what is this? This game is interesting. A very random find, but glad I did. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and or listening. I've been your player one, Mark, or mobkinz78. Man, that outro just will never not roll off the tongue. Have a good one, and as always, don't forget to stay awesome. I'll hopefully see you in another one. Peace.